All right, so next up we have our two sketches here. We have one sketch for the bottom, one sketch for the side. It's going to allow us to do a lot of nice, really nice extrusions on here. One thing that I don't have, like if we look at our diagram, we're going to need to put on the roof next one. That's one thing I didn't cover in the previous video. Maybe I should have when I was planning this out. But we want to have a line that's going to go across the top. Wonder about like the fancy ways of doing this. I think I'm just going to make a line. I'm just going to zoom in here. I don't know. There's got to be some cool ways I could make this. I feel like there's always a better way of doing this. But we'll make a bad version of this. Let's select like that. I kind of like this idea. I always like this idea of like making sure my things look really bad to begin with, and then again, as I talked about, we can go back in and constrain these to really be sure that like they don't just look right; they are right. I want these to be collinear. I want these two to be the same line. I want. Let's see, where is my collinear? I want these two to be collinear. I want those to be collinear. And it looks like this thing automatically became parallel, I assume, with this. Interesting. Makes sense. That's cool, though. Must figure that out on its own. And then we're going to select these two. Again, it's still blue, so we should figure out kind of what's going wrong here. I hit D. Actually, I should have talked about that a little bit more while I was doing it. Like I must have misclicked on something because it was giving me this constraint, like left and right. And so I just click now, like it's gonna be talking about the width, and it will probably tell me I'm over constrained. I really need to make sure I select the second one, make sure that those arrows are pointing in the correct direction. So let's click over here. We're gonna make this wood thickness. All right, and now I think we are ready to start doing some extrusion on here. What I want to do is, let's see, so we can start at the bottom. Let's see, is this going to matter? I am going to extrude, I'm going to extrude this one up. Let's see, let's start with this piece actually. This is going to be my wall, and I'm going to extrude it this way. So it's going to be, I can see it's minus, so I need to do minus wood thickness. Now, as I do that, I want to make sure I'm very tempted to hit enter twice. Oh, in this case, it's not going to matter since it's the first thing I'm building. But yeah, actually, I'm thinking about maybe there's a better, I'm going to say to object. I'm going to say to here. I think that's a little bit better. This will be a good habit for us, I think, of saying extent type instead of distance, instead of specifying a distance. In this case, it's totally fine to do distance because it's just going to be the same as entering wood thickness. But I think this is going to be helpful to say to object in here. And we'll see kind of why that comes up here in a few of these. All right, so we have our first wall in here. Let's get our other layers back in here. Let's start, I think this is going to be the tricky one here. That'd be tricky to do in other ways, but I think this will make our lives a lot easier. I'm going to extrude this piece. It's going to be a fancy one. We're going to extrude this. I'm going to say this distance to object, and I'm going to say it's up to this point. Okay. Now you can see right now, again, if you haven't done this before or forget, this is going to create one single piece, which is great if we're using a 3D printer. Maybe we're CNCing where it's going to be just one object. But in woodworking, we're trying to model our wood really carefully. So we want to do this as a new body. So I'll have a new body like that. We'll have one piece like that. And you can see it's got that little beautiful curve here that's just in line with the top roof. So let's do that. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to click extrude. I'm going to say, again, I could just do like the depth, but I feel like here it's just a little bit clearer about like extrude to this point. And then if anything else changes, like, yeah, it's just referencing our diagram. So I feel like it's a little bit better. Better way of doing this. And so there we go. We're looking pretty good here. Let's extrude this top piece. And we're going to say again, to object, we're going to select this top corner. We're not going to join, we're going to new body. Well, there's probably some way I could set that so by default it makes a new body. That'd probably be helpful. Maybe somebody will figure that out for me. If we extrude on this bottom, we're going to go up. In this case, I don't really have anything to reference here, so I am going to do distance, and I am going to say wood thickness, just because I don't think I have a point on here to reference. That would be helpful. And I'm going to say new body. Okay. So now, here we go. We have the first design on here. Ooh, let's do a little bit of testing before we go too much further. Let's change our parameters around and see what we get. So let's say if I want the left height to be much smaller, I want this to be like 8. See, everything, how beautiful is that? Everything will change with it because everything is parameterized. Changing that one value will change everything else. Because I feel like maybe some of you might want to do this a little bit differently where like this is kind of it's a subtle slant. Maybe you want like slightly sharper slope, but or maybe you don't, because we're going to put some grass on top. So maybe that's not a good way of doing it. But there we go. We have our first extrusion. I think I'm going to stop the video here, and then we'll work a little bit more on getting the next steps in this project up. Next steps in the project are going to be with the frame. I think so. The next steps are going to be to make the frame. So we'll start doing some sketching on that.